Greetings! This is another Sprocket video, and today I'm going to show you my latest recreations of my older designs. And you know, it's Christmas season and everything, so I thought I might turn myself into a nutcracker for this month. So yeah, alright. So before I'm going to show you the updated versions of my old tanks, here and now I'm going to do something that I have not done in the history of my channel and show something I didn't make. Except I made about 66% of it, and here it would be. So if you remember my Turul main battle tank, then this might look somewhat familiar, except a user by the name of Lars has slapped some contact onto it and some decals to make it look better, and modified a few additional things about it, like the cupola mounted autocannon or heavy machine gun, whatever you prefer, some other things, but mainly decals and ERA. Also the tracks have been edited a little bit, and the engine deck as well. Overall, it just looks better than the original Turul, which as you can see does not have all of those extra things slapped onto it. And the reason I'm showing you this upgraded version is because it makes me happy that someone liked one of my tanks so much that they decided that they want to make an even better version of it. So yes, it looks great, it performs basically the exact same way, and yeah, it just looks great. Alright, now let's get on to showing you the actual tanks in this video. And the first one is the AGS 104-7. So this is a medium tank, and actually this was the first ever medium tank I made in Sprocket. And yeah, it didn't look very nice. Let's just say that the first ever version of it was made before freeform was even a thing, and even after freeform was introduced into the game, I remade it either 2 times or 3 times, I am not quite sure. However, as you can see it right here, I have remade it once again. And I would only really describe it as a lobotomized Panther. So I actually gave it some pretty decent armor with weak points that make it completely useless. And actually the whole purpose of this tank is to be shit. And I wish I was joking, but that's precisely why I made it. Alright, let's bring a 90mm gun and 165mm of penetration. The upper frontal plate is pretty great, nothing can go through it reliably, everything just bounces off. However, there's a small issue right here, which sometimes can absorb shells, and other times everything just goes through. Also, the lower plate isn't much better either. The sides of the hull, these parts here, are quite angled, but they are not exactly the thickest. So sometimes nothing goes through them, sometimes everything goes through them. And even the turret, if you see this sloping right here, you can probably imagine what happens when I shoot here. Yeah, it's not exactly great. Also, it has 10 degrees of gun depression, however, if you shoot at the cupola, everything goes in. If you shoot here, everything goes in. If you turn the turret slightly, everything goes in. And even if you shoot at the gun mantlet, well, that's kinda obvious actually. And another strange weak point is the binocular rangefinder, which also defeats the entire purpose of having armor. So it's a tank with quite strong armor, but too many weak points to make the armor any effective at all. Other than that, this thing has a quite decent 420 horsepower engine, and another quite cool thing about it is that I made a custom gun for it. Except I didn't make a custom gun just for it, I just made it in general for future use. The gun itself is pretty damn good, 90mm and 165mm of penetration, and yeah, the gun itself is pretty damn great. I told you this was basically just a lobotomized Panther. The only exceptional thing about the tank is the gun, and other than that, the only other exceptional thing about it is how exceptionally shit it is. Oh, will you look at that? What did I tell you? Yeah, I think that's about it really. Alright, so the medium tank design 7 was quite shit all things considered. However, the next design in this video is slightly better, and it is the AGS 104-8, so medium tank design 8, and it is the only tank, as far as I can remember, which has both a cast turret and a cast hull. And actually, the story of this tank started way back. It was one of my first tanks I made in freeform, and it was quite shit. So a year later, I updated its design, and now 2 years later, I updated it once again. And let's be honest here, I did a pretty good job with the cast hull, even though I don't think I ever made any. So I used the circle making tool to make curves, and the rotate tool to rotate those curves around a certain point, and that's how I made these things. I'm just going to call them boobs because I mean, look at them. That's also how I did these curves around the edges, everywhere really. Let's increase the brightness of the paint, and overall I'm actually pretty damn happy with the outcome of this experiment. And the tank has the exact same 420 horsepower engine. It has the 75mm gun that you can also find on the HGS 104-5. I actually borrowed a lot of decorative elements from this tank, so don't be surprised when you recognize quite a lot of add-on structures, because I mean, this was the first ever tank I experimented on with these add-on structure decoration things, so yeah. Other than that, this has a unique add-on structure, and it's a crowbar I never used anywhere else. And yeah, now onto the armor profile. This thing actually has quite a decent armor profile, and I'm going to use these previously used 90mm guns stats. So the gun mantlet is pretty damn thick, and even the plate behind it is very durable, so you can't expect reliable penetrations. The cheeks are extremely thick, and where things would be very weak are protected by track links, so that's not really a reliable way of going through this tank either. The cupola actually is pretty damn functional, so yes. The only one really hurt here is the commander, but that's not really that big of an issue. these hull cupolas, or as I called them earlier, boobs, are quite weak, only 90 millimeters thick, and other than that the hull is pretty much indestructible, at least above the lower plate, even if you can't really say that it has one because it's all just a big curve. But even then, you don't really do that much damage. These sides are 80 millimeters thick, which for a medium tank is extremely great. And even the rear is 80 millimeters thick, and the engine stops basically everything from going through. So as this is a very well armored tank, you can't really kill it very easily, and it's only 4 tons heavier than the previously seen medium tank. So overall this one is pretty good, although the gun is quite a bit worse than the 90mm of the 104-7. Alright, for the next tank we need to return to the AGS 104-5 once again, because after the video it was featured in, I made a second version which has side skirts and a 420 horsepower engine, but that's almost irrelevant. Now the thing with this one is, back in the scrap mechanic days, yes, we are going back to those times when I made the 104-5, which I don't even know how I named it originally. So I made a tank destroyer on that tank's hull, and here it would be. And of course, when I previously made the 104-5 in Sprocket, I obviously had to make the tank destroyer version as well. So you can guess what's coming. The AGS 10604-5-2-1. Yes, that is quite an atrocious name, but trust me, it actually means something. Yeah, let's just call it Big Bob. So Big Bob right here has basically the exact same hull as the 104-5-2, except I changed the travel lock. And other than that, the only real difference is the turret, and my god, what a turret it is. So for the armor profile, 120mm thick front, angled at 30 degrees, so it's not exactly a bad turret armor, and even the sides are 50mm thick, which is thicker than the side skirts and the hull sides combined. So yeah, this is quite a big turret with quite thick armor compared to the rest of the tank. And the gun mantlet is also really thick, 100mm on the front, and I think 90mm here in the curved portion. Now this thing has an extremely destructive gun, a 130mm L30, which has almost 200mm of penetrations, which is insane. And if we look at the damage this gun can do, come on, render already, thank you. Look at all this spalling. If you hit this tank on this side, you pretty much do no damage whatsoever, because below the turret there's just a huge empty space where you just can't hit anything, and it's not exactly easy to hit this upper portion, because shells of course have a trajectory and you will more often than not just hit nothing in particular, although this side of the turret is very vulnerable to any gun really, but specifically to this gun, well, I mean, what isn't vulnerable to this gun specifically? It's just a really good anti-tank gun, and you might recognize this if you have seen I don't know when I posted it, I think it was yesterday, the Bring and Wagens update, because I made this gun for this tank specifically, then I realized I can mount it on the Bring and Wagen as well, so yeah. Alright, so the next subject is actually street tanks, because they are all basically the exact same vehicle with slight differences between the versions. So let's start with the Anvil prototype. So the Anvil self-propelled gun is one of my all-time favorite tanks I have ever designed. It is the previous version and the oldest version of it. And this would be the prototype, which unlike the versions you have just seen, does not have a turret. It just has a field gun duct taped onto it, and naturally I made it recoil because it's cool, I guess. It has 45 degrees of gun elevation, which happens extremely slowly, and only a couple degrees of left and right traverse, which is not quite optimal. However, it does the job, and I mean, it's an artillery. It does not have to have a great firing arc, and the shell trajectory makes things a bit hard. So give me a second. Oh, that was a hit. Ouch, this 155mm gun can mess me up very bad. Also, look at this. I found this thing out today as we speak. So yes, that's kind of funny actually. So yes, the Anvil prototype is not that great. However, it's a prototype. What can you expect? Performing actually well is the proper Anvil one's job actually. And it has basically the exact same 155mm howitzer, except modified a little bit for better use in this context. And the ammunition is stored in the floor exclusively, both for the prototype and this Anvil one as well. And other than that, there's pretty much no difference, except the gun can elevate up to 60 degrees, which is probably unnecessary for an artillery, but I mean, it looks goofy when it fully elevates its gun, and it takes such a long time, and I mean, this just looks cool, what can I say? And other than that, there's pretty much no difference between the prototype and the Anvil one. However, the Anvil 2 changes things up a little bit by having a longer 155mm howitzer with a muzzle brake at the end of it, a slightly longer turret with extra storage for more ammo, and a bit of a turret roof, an elevated turret roof with hatches for better protection against shrapnel and possibly aircraft, although this is just 8mm of steel, so it won't protect against much, if anything, but I mean, it's nice, it's there. And it has not a muzzle brake, travel lock. Yes, that is the word I was looking for. So yes, other than that, the Anvil 1 and the Anvil 2 are practically identical. Although the Anvil 2 looks quite a bit cooler, mostly because of the turret improvements. Now that I think about it, the only improvements were in the turret. And it died. Ouch. Can I still shoot? Yes. Yes, I indeed can. Although my loader is dead, so I guess I can't really reload. Let's switch tanks. And the first shot I fire, I land. Unbelievable. So yes, this would be the Anvil 2 and the Anvil 1 and the Anvil prototype. Alright, the last tank in this video is the smallest, most adorable, tiny little, cute little tank thing, and it is the AGS 110-3 Hummingbird. It is technically a tankette, although you could make an argument for it being a tank destroyer because it has a 90mm gun. So yes, although it's only 5 tons heavy or 5 tons light, and I mean, look at it, it's super small. I don't even know how I fit 4 people in this thing. But yeah, it's really small. It has an acceptable 90mm gun, and it's quite quick. And it's really damn cute. Much cuter than the previous version. So let's see what this adorable little fella can do. Also, look at this muzzle brake I made today for it. It looks strange, perhaps a little odd. However, I think it fits the vibe of this tiny little monster. So let's fire once, twice, thrice, and that thing is dead. The gun traverse range on this thing is quite shit, although it has 10 degrees of gun depression, like on most of my tanks. So it can work the ridge lines or ramps in this case, and it's super quick, it's super small, super cute, and quite destructible. And destructive as well, but mostly destructible because, I mean, look at it. It looks like you can just pick it up and squish it. Yeah, this thing gives me cuteness, aggression. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you. This is just a cute little tank. A tiny little fella. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, hit the dislike button. If not, hit the dislike button. If you want to, you can unsubscribe and tell me in the comments what you thought of my tanks. Thanks for paying attention. Bye.